Well, unfortunately, that's it for another season in Europe after the Dons went down to a single goal loss last night at Pataudry. The headlines say it all, really, don't they? Done and dusted. Aberdeen exit the conference with a whimper, some newspapers are suggesting. Hello everybody, how you doing? A very warm welcome to Ali Beg ABTV this Friday. Friday night. How are we doing? Had to think there for a second. Everybody alright? Ah, man. Do you know, I gotta be honest. I was quite gutted last night because I thought we were playing really well. And I thought they were there for the taking. And I thought we could, and arguably should, have taken something from the game. So yeah, I was a bit gutted at the end. I was really gutted in the manner that we lost the goal. Just a ball over the top, the boys splitting our two central defenders and just nipping in and scoring. I thought we'd kind of learned our mistakes by now, but we're still a little bit fragile when it comes to balls over the top, really, aren't we? But overall, I thought it was a very encouraging performance. And I think if we can take certain levels of intensity from last night into our domestic campaign, then I actually think we're going to be okay. So some of you may argue that it's not such a bad thing that we've gone out of Europe because we can now solely concentrate on moving up the table. And of course, we begin our Scottish Cup campaign next month. Talking of which, that has now been confirmed. So we will face Raith Rovers at Pataudry on Sunday, the 18th of January. It's a 2:30 kickoff in the UK and it will be shown live on TV. So that's the Scottish Cup. Right, the other thing to come out of the club today was that Dave Cormack and Chief Executive Officer Alan Burrows went to meet Aberdeen City Council today. It's a joke. And apparently, they held very positive talks, and the outcome is that both sides will now further investigate the workings and funding of the project going forward. So, let's take the positives from that and let's see what happens. So tonight, unfortunately, Andrew Budge can't be with us because he was at his Christmas party. Terrible excuse not to be here. So unfortunately, he can't make it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave the floor completely open to you guys to have your say. And I'll try and read out as many comments as I possibly can this evening. But first, let's just go through the normal housekeeping stuff for you. So the manager made just the one change from the Dundee game. And I got to be honest, I was a little bit surprised by this. Topi Keskinen came in for Dante Polvara, who dropped down to the bench. So that was the only change. Match stats. Again, I was fairly quite surprised when I read this. Less than 40% possession for us. Saying that though, we did have 11 shots to their 9, of only which 2 sadly were on target to their 6. Dimitar Mitov last night was quite simply outstanding. He made 3 world-class saves. Kept us in the game and was just incredible throughout. Touches inside the box, we had 24 to their 26, and our pass accuracy was actually down a wee bit, down to 77%. So just before we move on, don't forget that Ali Beg ABTV is brought to you and supported by Saltire Energy, the global market leader in specialist drilling equipment rental. Not just that, they offer rentals, torquing, testing, refurbishment and welding as well. Here's the manager.
No, of course we are right now disappointed because we know we had to win today and give us the chance, but we played against a good team. I think the first half was really good. We attacked the game and did a lot of interceptions in the first half and created some good chances in set plays in our transitions. And also play better and better with the ball every game that we play now, the last part. Second half, I think they were better some periods there, but then we come back into the game again. But if I think about how the team has grown from the qualification and now in this league phase, it's a different kind of team. We have been better and better for every week and every opportunity. So in one way the players have learned a lot, and the fans were behind the team today and pushed them to the last minute. So in one way I'm proud how the team has grown, and that's why it's important to be there. Try to be here every year to keep progressing.
So that's the thoughts of the manager last night, who seemed to be fairly upbeat, I have to say. So I'm going to get to your comments in just a moment, but first let's get another little shout out to Craig International, who continue to support me here on the channel. A global procurement company based all over the world, 10 offices to be precise, based in America, also up in Canada. Their home base is in Aberdeen, but they also serve the European continent, with offices based in Hamburg, here in Germany. They're also in the Middle East, in Qatar, in Oman, and in Dubai as well. They're down in Singapore, where business continues to do well, and they're also down in Australia. So, if you are looking for any sort of procurement services, Craig International are the ones to look out for. Right. Oops. Let's get you guys on before we move on and see what's going on. Right. Oops. Okay, so... One second, just while I sort this all out. There we go. Right, now I need to just bring that down. There we are. Bring that across. There we go. Right, where's the old... There it is. So. Right. Gordon Keith Ritchie came on first of all and says, "Good evening, everybody. All started well, but did not take our chances. They were a good team. Now the European adventure is over. Next week, it's time to concentrate on the league." Paul Donaldson said, "Disappointing result, but an encouraging performance. If we can play like that for the rest of the season, we'll be up there competing for another place in Europe for next season." We will, Paul. Graham Gibbs says, "Just a word on Strasbourg. Top class, pre-match interview with our manager who knew what his history was all about. Also, class travelling fans, what European games should be." I agree, Graham. David Horn is on, wishing you a good evening, as is Mr. O'Cork. Scott Bowie says, "Thought as a whole we played well, especially in the first half, apart from the one lapse of concentration at the back. Second half, couldn't get any momentum, and don't think the subs helped much either." So, let's have a wee chat about that. I have to be honest, I was quite baffled by that. Why did he not just leave Marco on and bring Kevin on and the two of them play together? I thought Marco was doing okay. Yeah, it's tough up there on his own. I thought he was doing all right. But I would like to have seen the two of them on the pitch at the same time. Look, I mean this with the greatest respect to Cassini, but really? I didn't get that. I really didn't. And I just felt last night when we were, we were 1-0 down, we need to get back into the game, and we need to get back into the game quickly to give ourselves a chance in the closing stages. And we bring on Cassini Yengi. Yeah. Yeah. Kaiser's on. How are we doing, Kaiser? He said, "The problem last night was the forward line. Lazetic had two great chances. Ashish blasted a great chance over the bar. Just a total lack of composure." Spot on. Why couldn't Adil have shown the type of composure that he showed against Dundee? Because I see what he was trying to do. He's just trying to bend it in. But surely, in hindsight, a sort of a cushioned shot into the low corner or a wee slip in for Jesper Karlsson might have been the better option. But Kaiser's right. More composure was needed. Scott Bowie says, "Dimitar Mitov, man of the match by far. Not having a go at Yengi, but why take a strike? But why take a striker on who has hardly played a minute in the last few months. He looked rusty and never linked anything up, which isn't really his fault. Scott, I have to agree with that. I when he came on, I was just like, and he kind of huffed and puffed a bit, didn't he? He did his best, but, seriously, what was the manager thinking doing that? Craig Morris says, feel like folks, last night thought we started the game superbly, well on the front foot. The disallowed goal seemed harsh. I disagree with that, it was handball. We're really lacking a big physical midfielder that can actually tackle. Dante. Dave B says, great effort by the lads, just didn't get the result. They were clearly a good team, but I thought a draw would have been a fair result. Everyone played great with Mittoff and Armstrong the standouts. Scott Bowie says, Carlson to me is a one-trick pony. Kaiser says, it will be a while, I suspect, before we see group stage European football at Pittodrie again. David Gold is wishing you a good evening. He says a decent enough performance. John Kylo says, I was disappointed by Strasbourg. They fouled all game and were wasting time from the opening whistle. They had one thing we lack this season, pace. Kaiser says, Toppy was the only player in the forward line that can press. Couldn't believe that Yimi took him off. Andrew is on saying, Mittoff, Armstrong, Loban and Milne, excellent. Great seeing the young Scots coming through. Chris Clark says, good evening all. I'll be honest, I think European football until Christmas is just about right for us with our squad size and depth. Nice having a run in Europe, but we now need to focus on the league. Stephen D is here. Good evening, Stephen. Thank you for being on, fella. Coolio, Barry, how are we doing? He says, I think he's using the squad. Dante will start on Sunday. Yeah, I agree with that. Sugarland says, let's hope we use these games to build on our league form and that our manager doesn't put out an OAP midfield on Sunday just because. Don is here. How are we doing, Don? He says, feisty game. Thought Strasbourg performance routines were impressive, but also thought the Dandies fought well against Strasbourg, trying to close out the game in the last 30 minutes. Kaiser came back to say, Loban is an ace. He kept Chilwell pretty quiet. A shout out to Jensen as well. Stuck to his task well, I thought. Bob Duff says, how are we doing, Bob? What was Jimmy thinking in bringing on Yenge? No offence to the lad, but made zero sense to me. Bob, I don't think you're alone, fella. Bruce Strother says, good evening, Dandies. Decent first half last night. Strasbourg showed their quality second half. Mittoff and Milne, excellent. Ashish, sitter, annoyed emoji. Right, just before we move on, I need to give a shout out to my other sponsor, Quipco International, who also sponsor us here on the channel. They service the oil and gas industry based in Abu Dhabi. They offer a number of manufacturing and repair services. So they have a purpose-built facility to do just that. They are the best in the region. What I've listed there is just the tip of the iceberg. If you want to know more about their services and more about the type of products that they can manufacture for your needs, check them out on their website, quipco.com. If you want to get in touch with them, there's their telephone number and their email address. Or as I always say, come to me and I'll put you in touch direct with the guys at Quipco. Scott Bowie says, think the last Euro game, just give minutes to the squad players who have not started or hardly played any minutes. Doug Smith says, good effort last night. I believe we have a football team again. Kaiser's asking, any idea why Polvara never played or even got on? It's a good question. But then Graham Gibbs says, Talene says Polvara a slight injury concern and also managing his minutes. Fair enough. Bob Duff is suggesting that he doesn't think Polvara is signing another contract. Would have by now, you would have to wager. Yeah, I must admit, Bob, I'm slightly concerned about that as well. Stuart Cleary says, Mittoff and Armstrong were my men of the match. Outstanding displays. It definitely didn't feel like a loss. Kaiser says there was a few racing fans in the club shop yesterday when I was in, buying the white away shirt and half scarves. Kenny McDonald says, hello all, so many positives from last night's result against a very good side. Looking forward to see what happens in the January transfer window with the comings and the goings. Jack Bruce is suggesting that Yenge was worse than a man down. Bruce Struthers is asking, why Yenge? We all know it's not worked out for him and he'll leave in January, so why bring him on? Bob Duff came back to say Clarkson, Palaversa and Nielsen all away in Jan, I think. Granted, none are currently starting games, but we still need a puckle of centre mid signed in January. Ian Barron says, hi Ali, really encouraging performance last night. The pressing, especially first half, was very good. Let's take this into the league and cup and we can push to get back into Europe next season. Come on you Reds, he says. John Kylo says, Yenge was a masterstroke, a little more presence up front and takes all the hate away from Jensen. Did you say that with your tongue placed firmly in your cheek, John? December 1903, or Dec 1903, says, evening dandies, a bit late to the party. Proud of the team last night. Special mention to Mitov, absolutely tremendous. On another day, we get a result, but don't get why we brought on Yenge. Yeah, Paul Donaldson said, the lad with the red hair that played for Strasbourg last night, the number 23 who came on in the second half, looked like a class player. Name escapes me. Julie Bruce says, the ref was dreadful. Even thought about giving him a shot of my daughter's glasses. Bob Duff says, no offence to Nicholas Milanovic either, but he's not of the required standard. Bob, sadly, I agree. And I have to be honest, I'm hugely disappointed because when he signed, I spoke to a couple of my pals who live down in Australia who were all absolutely raving about him. And he's just not cutting the mustard, is he? It's a real shame because when I went to Pataudry for the FC, what are they called? FCSB. I thought, there's a player here. He's going to grow and he's going to get better with game time, but it's just not happened, does it? Big disappointment for me, Bob. Graham Gibbs says, Ali, the ref allowed their centre-backs to do a number on Lazetic. It was like watching the wrestling on World of Sport. Only Mick McManus was missing. I thought he had a tough shift yesterday, Marco. I really do. Stuart Cleary says, totally agree. We should have played Marco and Kevin together. We sat there looking at each other, wondering what the heck the manager was doing. Kaiser says, agree, Bob. Milanovic looks a dud, to be honest. I hope he proves me wrong. Graham Gibb also says, sorry, but Milanovic offered diddly squat. Dave B says, I thought Lazetic was unlucky with his 2 chances, especially the second one which hit the keeper's side. He knew nothing about it. When I saw it, I must admit, Dave, when I first saw it, I thought he fluffed his lines. But then you see the replay and you're absolutely right. A couple of inches to his left, that's going in, isn't it? Bob Duff says the summer recruitment designed to deal with Euro as well as domestic football has proven to be horrific. Kaiser said, if there was a game to play Paul Vara, surely it was last night. Yep. Bob says, Dylan Loban is already showing more potential than what Calvin Ramsey did. High hopes for him. Good shout. Big shout. Neil came on to say, rumour is Dante's contract is moving forward. I hope you're right, Neil, and I hope your source is right. Graham Gibbs says, final moan for the evening. It took ages yet again to make the subs. Long time deciding if 2 or 3 players were coming on. Seems like we don't know what we're doing. Interesting. So Don, the sports psychologist who comes on the show occasionally, I said, by the way, Yenge on is likely due to a contractual obligation or a big in your face to whoever signed him in reality. Sad, as Yenge is probably a nice guy, but I'm only talking about professional standards. Interesting, Don. George Barber says, I don't think the team was set up to win this game. Key players on the bench, very strange subs. Not for the first time. I have to question JT's motives. Scott Bowie says, could have done with Clarkson on instead of Shinnie. Maybe one of his Hollywood passes might have worked last night. And Devlin looked out on his feet after 60 minutes. I got to be honest, I'm a big fan of Nicky Devlin. I don't think he had his best game last night, unfortunately, for the Dons. Right, I have a wee favour to ask. It's just a wee favour. Come on, you know me. It's just a wee favour. Don't forget to like the old show if you've enjoyed it so far. Thank you for your comments. Now, what I'm really looking for is for those of you who haven't already subscribed to the channel, I'd be really grateful if you would please consider doing such a thing. Shall I tell you why? Because we're only 4 folk away from reaching 4,800 subscribers. So, as I keep saying, the word subscriber for me is misleading. You're not paying for anything. You're not signing up to pay for anything. You're not giving away your hard-earned money. All you're doing is basically following like you would do on Facebook, Insta, TikTok, X, blah, blah. So if you are an avid watcher of the channel and you've not yet subscribed to the channel, go on, just be a devil, just press that wee button for us. I'd love to get to 4,800 tonight. And then I can really start kicking on to try and get to 5,000 subscribers. 5,000. Right. So, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do a preview show ahead of the Kilmarnock game because I have to go to Munich tomorrow for work. And I don't get back until early evening, and it won't give me time, unfortunately, to prepare a show for you. So I offer you my humble apologies. But what I will do is come back on Monday with a review show where Andrew Budge will join us and we can go through some proper analysis for you. So please forgive me that I can't make a preview show ahead of the Kilmarnock game. Don't forget, Sunday, 3 o'clock at Pittodrie. And I need you to keep an eye on my social media channels over the coming weeks because I've got some very exciting news, which I'm going to share with you very soon. The deal was done last week, and I'm going to share that news with you very soon. It's rather exciting. Right, guys, I'm going to call it a night because I want to go home and see my kids. And I'm going to see you again on Monday for the review show after the Kilmarnock game. Thank you so much for being with us. I've really enjoyed your company tonight, as always. Thank you for all your comments. Like, subscribe. See you later. Stand free.